and welcome to episode 8 of The Smallest Thing. I'm Lisa Manterfield. Last week, our parks reopened. Even though it was a drizzly day, I went for a hike for the first time in 2 months. I knew I'd miss being able to get out in nature, but I didn't realize how much my mental and physical health depended on being able to get out, work up a sweat, and take a full, deep breath. Change my whole state of mind. It's going to be some time before we fully understand what impact this period of lockdown has had on our mental and physical well-being. Many of us are struggling with loneliness and isolation, missing friends and family, and feeling frustrated about the things we don't get to do. Even understanding that we need to stay strong and keep doing what we have to do to keep our communities and ourselves safe, it's not always easy to keep a positive attitude. I'm sure all of us have had our moments of despair. So today I want to talk about mental health and share a resource I hope you'll find helpful. But first, Em has frustrations of her own about the lack of clear information. This week she cooks up a plan to do something about it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of The Smallest Thing. Welcome to the serialized audiobook, The Smallest Thing, written by Lisa Manterfield, read for you by Charlie Sanderson.
Chapter 8. It's a perfect summer evening, the kind where the sun seems to hang above the horizon for hours before it finally sinks away. It's the kind of night you'd expect to hear sparrows chirping in the shrubbery and wood pigeons cooing from the cottage roofs. But instead, the village is alive with the whir of generators and the rumble of heavy vehicles shuttling into position. I stomp down to Dad's allotment and peer over the fence. His vegetable patch is stripped bare, the rich dark earth turned over and trampled down. There isn't even a nub of carrot or a wilted cabbage leaf left behind. Littered across the adjoining grass are the decapitated bodies of hundreds of flowers. The purples, yellows and pinks of freesias, lilies and begonias are strewn like confetti across a scattered carpet of muck, splashed with the fallen heads of brilliant red poppies. Tossed to one side and cracked in two, half of a large black boot print visible on each shattered piece is the Dad's Garden sign Alice and I once painted. The sight of it presses a fist of sadness into my chest. I turn and hurry away. As I pass the village hall, a team of medical personnel scurries back and forth, rolling temporary beds into the old stone building, along with boxes of supplies and bales of starched bedsheets and patterned gowns, everything sterile and cold, no comforts of home. They appear to be setting up a makeshift medical centre. Rose said that even though it's miles from here, the hospital where Dr. Spencer was taken has been quarantined too. Does this mean they're no longer accepting our sick? Why would a place dedicated to treating illness refuse to take people who are ill? A wave of fury and fear wells up inside me. Do they know more than they are telling, or is our village hall less a central location to treat the sick than a convenient place to stash the dying? From an unmarked white van, 2 aliens wheel a long rectangular bubble. It looks like a typical hospital gurney with a see-through plastic tent on top. These alien suits appear to be inflated. A low whir as they pass makes me think they have some kind of personal air conditioning system built into their suits. Whatever is in that tent, it's clear they want to keep their distance from it. As I peer into the bubble to see what they're hauling, I recognise the pale, hairless head of Andy Hawksworth. His motionless body shows none of the wry humour and teasing I've come to expect from Dad's oldest friend. His face is a yellowish, expressionless mask, and his eyes stare skywards in a zombie-like trance, just like I saw in Dr. Spencer. Blood crusts around his nose, and purple bruises splash his normally ruddy cheeks, as if he's been in a fight. I want to shout out to them to stop, that they can't take him away like that. But everything I've seen tells me that the Andy I know no longer inhabits that body. He's not dead. Not yet. He's existing in some in-between world. I turn away. I can't watch people I've known my whole life shuttled into a place I'm not sure they'll come back from. They're rounding up the sick like stray sheep in the hills. I have to get out of here before they start rounding up the healthy too. I run toward the village green, away from the hall, and I don't stop until I reach the memorial that sits at the narrow end of the triangular patch of grass. It's a stone pillar about my height, with a carved Celtic cross on top. Engraved around the base are the names of the 22 men from Eyam who gave their lives during the Great War. I don't like to look at the memorial because it makes me sad. No, actually, it makes me angry about the waste of life. And when I read those names, all I can think about are the young men, most of them not much older than me, who suddenly ceased to exist, who never had the chance to go on and live amazing lives. I think about all the things I want to do with my life, London and my future beyond this village, and the thought that I may never get the chance to do them leaves me paralysed. My legs seem to dissolve beneath me, and I reach for one of the small stone pillars that holds a painted iron chain around the memorial. I slide to the ground, staring into nothing, my future so blurred and unfocused that I can't seem to make anything appear clear. Finally, my eyes come to rest on the inscription around the bottom of the memorial. A single letter comes into focus, an E, and then another, until finally I register a word: freedom. I blink the surrounding words into focus and read the inscription from top to bottom, something I'm not sure I've ever done before. They, whom this monument commemorates, were among those who, at the call of king and country, left all that is dear to them, endured hardness, faced danger, and finally passed out of the sight of men by the path of duty and self-sacrifice, giving up their own lives, that others might live in freedom. There are no Siddles on the list of dead, even though several branches of our family lived in Eyam at that time. I come from either a long line of self-preservationists or the luckiest family in the world. Maybe we Siddles display our heroics like my dad, by leading committees and visiting elderly neighbours in a nice, safe, war-free zone. But maybe I wouldn't be standing here reading this if the turn-of-the-century Siddles had been braver and more dutiful. There's a lot to be said for self-preservation, I think. Every year, our village honours its war dead in a Remembrance Day ceremony, including the families who did have courageous relatives, the Ashtons and the Glovers, and old Mrs. Talbot, whose great-granddaughter, Millie, wheels her down to the green so she can lay a wreath for the brother she barely had the chance to know. Let those who come after see to it that their names are not forgotten, reads the end of the inscription. A century later, their names live on. 100 years from now, if I don't make it out of here, will anyone remember me? I doubt it. They call it the supreme sacrifice, giving up your life for the greater good, dying for a cause. I try to imagine those men enlisting in that war, as good as signing their own death warrants. It seems insane to me, and I wonder, does that make me a coward? Or does it just mean I value my own life more? And if I listen to my dad and keep being a good girl, if I sit tight and follow the rules, am I signing up for certain death? I realise then I have my dad's genes, his blood in my veins, but I am not like him. I am not prepared to sit around while life, or in this case, death, happens to me. Dad isn't going to like this one bit, but my life isn't his to squander. As far as I know, we only get one life, and I am going to do whatever I can to preserve mine. All I need is a plan and a little bit of help.
Welcome back. My good friend Rain Lacko is the author of Dream Up Now, a guided journal that offers creative tools for transforming pain into power and designing your life to go the way you want. I'm very proud to be a contributor of the journal with some exercises for creative ways to write through grief. The journal comes out in September of this year, but because of the current need she sees for emotional support, Rain has created a series of mini-kits to help you deal with some of the issues we're all dealing with right now. The first kit addresses moving from I feel isolated, to I feel belonging. Very appropriate for our times. You can download it for free, and I'll include the link in the description below. As Rain says, feelings of isolation can come from being at home alone for long stretches of time and stuck inside your head. It's tempting to distract yourself by looking for the next new thing, or randomly clicking like, or wishing to be somewhere other than where you are now. But if you're simply finding ways to distract yourself day after day, she says, you may be doing things that actually create more negative feelings. Rain encourages you to take a moment to look at how you're spending your time from 1 hour to the next in your isolation. How much time do you spend in front of the TV or scrolling through social media, reading other people's opinions about what's happening and wondering how you should feel about it? Although I've been keeping busy with writing, working on a new book, producing this podcast, and keeping up with friends and family, I realize how much time I've also been spending on some of these mindless distractions. For me, it's scrolling endlessly through social media but never interacting, watching way more TV than I've ever done before, and getting up progressively later every day. I've also been keeping up with fewer of my good habits, like exercising, reading for pleasure, and spending time outdoors, things I know are good for my mental and physical health. Just being aware of these things has changed my habits this week. These mindless distractions, Rain says, can end up adding to our sense of sadness, boredom, and anxiety. It quickly becomes a cycle of numbing and sinking, numbing and sinking. In this first emotional emergency kit, Rain leads you through a series of prompts to uncover ways to hit reset when you feel isolated, to reconnect with the parts of yourself that may have become lost, as well as connecting with others in a more meaningful way. Just taking a little time to jot down how you're feeling, she says, can give you a few moments away from all that's going on in the world right now. If you're feeling the effects of isolation, I encourage you to download the mini kit and give the prompts a try. There'll be additional kits available soon, and I hope to lure Rain onto the show to talk about them. Again, the kit is free, and the link to download your copy is in the description below. So, until next week, be well. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Smallest Thing. To make sure you don't miss next week's episode, you can subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. If you'd like to support the show, please leave a review and share this series with others you think might enjoy it. If you're on Instagram, tag me there at LisaManterfield_, or follow me on Facebook at author Lisa Manterfield and Twitter at Lisa Manterfield. My newsletter subscribers are always the first to know about my news, events, upcoming releases, giveaways, and more. Sign up for monthly delivery at lisamanterfield.com/subscribe and get your complimentary copy of Love, Loss and Letting Go, 3 of my short stories. Thanks to Justin Joseph for producing and editing this show, and to Ketsa.uk for the music. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening.